Welcome to Comics Bazaar, the channel of comics commentary and arcana. This video features Death's Head 2, number 2, cover dated April 1992, and this is part 2 of a 4-part limited miniseries. So this comic came out of Marvel Comics UK imprint, launching into the US in 1992. This cover features obviously Mr. Fantastic of the Fantastic Four, but a very buff version of the character, courtesy of Liam Sharp. The cover penciled and inked by Liam Sharp and featuring also the Human Torch there in the background. Dr. Necker here, the creator of Minion, and with her speech balloon, he's the Minion construct Richards, I programmed him to kill you. Let him go while you still can. And then the cover caption, Death's Head fights for control of Minion's mind. So you've got the basic information you need to go into this issue, and then let's go to the first page. So we've got two long, slender establishing shots for an alleyway, as it turns out, in Manhattan, New York. So the setting is New York 1992. Thousands of lost souls come to this city every day, driven by their own needs and desires. Here comes the latest visitor now. And this is reminiscent of the Terminator movies, just indeed as there is an ad for the Terminator 2 Judgment Day Game Boy game over here to the left. And then this great anchor image of Minion, who's arrived in 1992 to hunt down Reed Richards. Minion, 400 pounds of laser machine cybernetics, 3 centimeters of augmented molybdenum armor, 2 megawatt high yield plasma fusion weapon, one consuming obsession. Reed Richards dies tonight. So this is part 2 of the 4-part The Wild Hunt. Brought to you by creative team here. Story Dan Abnett, pencils Liam Sharp, inks Andy Lanning, colors Helen Stone, lettering Caroline Steeden and Perry Godbold. And what you'll notice here is the first few pages is very small lettering on the page, but it gets adjusted a little before midway in the issue, and I'll point out when the lettering improves. Great colour on this page, great drawing, anchor image, as I said, by Liam Sharp and Andy Lanning. It's good stuff and evocative, as I said, also of the Terminator mythos, because Minion is an implacable hunter, and that's particularly after having absorbed Death's Head's instincts in issue 1 of the series. So then we have an establishing shot of a French restaurant in Manhattan. The narrative caption says at that very moment, at one of Manhattan's most exclusive French restaurants. We've got Reed Richards taking a phone call from, as it turns out, his wife. And here she is at an art exhibition. I remember the first time I got this issue back in 1992, and this was the sexiest version of Sue Storm that I ever saw before, and that is quite a memorable dress that she's wearing at that exhibition. So she apologizes for being late for dinner, but she's going to join them soon. So Reed gives the phone back to the waiter, who looks a lot like John Cleese's Basil Fawlty from the BBC TV series comedy from the early 80s, Fawlty Towers. So Liam Sharp having a little joke there. And he puts in an order for their starter course before his wife arrives. And just as he's having his water, notice he's not drinking any alcohol there, there is an arrival, an unexpected arrival, Dr. Richards, and it's Necker here. Dr. Necker, Evelyn Necker, in her time teleportation suit and equipment, and a little bit, what would you say, underdressed maybe for a French restaurant like this that she's just appeared in. So Richards here is astounded, and she says, "Thank goodness I found you before he has." "Who on earth are you?" asks Reed. "Where did you come from?" So she says, "My name's Evelyn Necker." And he says, "My mother's name was Evelyn. I'm not your mother." She says to him, "I can see that." That's great. That's a really great exchange. Good dialogue from Dan Abnett throughout this issue. There's a little vein of humour running through it. So she explains to him, "I'm from the year 2020, I know a great deal about you, but this is no time for long introductions. We have to get out of here now." So the waiter turns up asking, does he know who the woman is, preparing to throw her out. But there's another crash somewhere else in the restaurant, and who is it except for Minion, who has tracked Richards to the restaurant. So Necker starts blasting at him, And Reed here thinks maybe it's one of Doctor Doom's toys, perhaps, but it isn't. So she pushes him down to the floor. And I love this panel here where Minion is coming up to a glass plate door or window, dividing the restaurant into different sections, no doubt. Just the way it's rendered, it looks really well. And Necker here in profile, just blasting away at Minion and continuing to do so. But Reed takes the gun from her, tells her to stop it because, of course, Reed Richards is a hero, a superhero, and his concern is with the civilians all over the place. But she replies to him, "I'm trying to save your life, you idiot. If you won't let me shoot, then at least take my advice and run." So Minion is there blasting after them. That's a really cool anchor image as well. Now, one thing I would do a couple of times in this issue is I would flip the image and have Necker going to, left to right. It's always advisable in comics, especially, well, obviously Western comics and not manga, to have characters moving left to right on the page. That's our direction of reading as well. So then they're out on the street and they get in a cab. This is a funny bit as well. Reed says to her, "Into that cabin quick." And Necker says, "We need something faster than that to outrun Minion." And Reed says, "There's nothing faster in this city." So that's pretty funny. And I like the way that Sharp has paid attention to little details like having civilians on the street there and there as well. Just a little bit of extra work, but it evokes the scene. And it's a rainy night, and that's going to come in to play a little later in the story as well, at least in the imagery. I'll point it out at the time. So Reed removes the cab driver. They're in the cab now, and then they're on their way just as Minion crashes out of the restaurant. And I love this image here outside of the panels of Minion kind of kneeling on his hunkers and thinking the solution for the situation now is to pursue the cab at optimum speed. And then there's a little difficulty for him. Again, I would flip this anchor image and have him moving the other way. So Minion says, "Quarry 47 meters in closing, preparing to assimilate subject Reed Richards. Personal data now, local paving unsuitable for even mid-range acceleration." Some nice little thoughtfulness on the part of Dan Abnett here in terms of the story telling, and little details like that are very much appreciated. So Minion blasting after the cab here, and Necker explaining to Richards to answer his question about what is that thing. The Minion construct, funded by AIM, that's Advanced Idea Mechanics, in the future programmed to kill you and steal your intellect, and it won't stop until it does. How can you be sure of this? Sure of it? She responds, "I programmed the damn thing." Very Jim Lee influenced face on Dr. Necker there, and that panel looks good. And then another great episode or kind of scene in the issue where we get to see Minion's computer targeting of the cab. He comes level with the driver's seat and is preparing to blast Reed Richards, but Reed sideswipes him to buy them time. So some adventurous driving by Reed Richards, and Minion here crashing into a building, and Reed and Necker making their escape. I always make this point when I come across this ad. I want all these t-shirts if that were possible. And then we have an interlude. Back in the year 2020, AIM headquarters cleaning up operation after the events of the previous issue, and somebody there from Death's Head Comics Continuity is Spratt. He's Death's Head partner, well, maybe ex-partner. So he picks up the body and takes it away and thinks, "I'll get you back on your feet. You see, I have this plan." End of interlude. We'll catch up with that at the very end of this issue. But back in the USA, 1992, I like this establishing shot. For Freedom's Plaza here on the right. And we have the Thing. And he is having a little sing-song for himself. And then he catches the news on the TV. La Maison Saint-Jacques, that's where Stretch and Sue were going. And I like the way that Sharp renders the Thing in this, because a question I had at the time was like, what if Jim Lee drew the Fantastic Four? What would they look like? And Liam Sharp's versions of the Fantastic Four in this issue are as close as I could have imagined a Jim Lee version of the Fantastic Four would look like, until I got to see his version with Heroes Reborn some years later. Anyway, this is a great little panel of the Thing taking off his headphones and turning up the volume on the TV. And then we switch to the the restaurant itself, the street itself. I love the details of people with their umbrellas up. It is a rainy night. And all of these characters in the background here, including this NYPD cop, and then Sue coming through the roped off area into the restaurant. I love the way it's rendered as having been burnt out, and the fireman there as well, and Andre here with his bow tie undone, and Sue asking the obvious question, what's going on? Where's my husband? And he says, Madame Richards, your husband, he left earlier with a young woman. So that's going to go somewhere as well. And we pick up with them as they're crossing the Brooklyn Bridge, Minion speeding after them. And Necker asks for a gun, but it's broken, so she has other options. A grenade here, which she throws at Minion. This is a great little sequence. I love the angle here that we're looking down the cab towards Minion on the road, coming after them. The blast here, and I love this final panel where he's in silhouette hanging on to some of the exploded railing from the bridge. Then we're back in the cab. Again, I would flip the angle here. I would have them going the other direction. I wonder, did Liam Sharp use some photo reference here? Looks interesting. Reed takes the door of the cab off, and they escape just as he was about to lose control of the cab from damage it took from Minion's attacks. And so he saves Necker as well, of course. She's very grateful here, my pleasure. This is a really cool panel too, you don't say. And there's a little bit of chemistry developing, at least on Necker's side, towards Reed Richards. As I said, that's going to go somewhere in this issue. And then we have the arrival of the Thing on a Fantasti bike. Would that be the name of it? Looks very cool, Liam Sharp's rendition of it. And I like his opening question, hi Stretch, who's the tomato? So Reed responds, Ben, am I glad to see you? How did you know where to find me? I hadn't used the flare signal. Reed, for a genius, you sure ask some stupid questions sometimes. Of course, it was all of the burning debris, and so the Thing took a wild guess. That's a really nice rendering of the Thing here. On all of these pages by Liam Sharp, he does a really good job on the Thing. He was a bit of a difficult character to draw to get that rocky look correct. So Necker here wondering about dealing with Minion, and here he comes. He's survived the grenade attack. So the Thing stands in front of Reed and Necker and asks Reed, Minion, huh? What does he want? It's been programmed to kill me, says Reed. That's all I need to know. It's clobbering time. And that's the best use of that phrase in this issue. They only use it once. Sometimes clobbering time is overused. I like the use of it. They're reserving it for this point. So then Minion's coming towards him, blasts him with the plasma blaster. Is the Thing, will he survive that? He's bleeding. He takes it full in the chest and he's bleeding. But he smashes the gizmo, as he calls it. Minion hits him with a left hook, and then his plasma weapon disabled, he switches to the blade option. So we see that happen with his hand here in these two little panels. That's really cool. And then he's ready to take on the Thing again. So the Thing realizes this creep is going to take more stopping than I figured. You got to get out of here and dream up some way of sending him to La La Land permanently. And by the way, the lettering has changed by this point. It's a larger size than at the beginning and much easier to read. So it must be the second letterer that's working at this point. So Reed reluctant to leave his friend, but the Thing insists, and then we get this continuing battle between the Thing and Minion. But Reed takes the Fantasti bike and heads back to Four Freedoms Plaza with Dr. Necker, because there he hopes to find a way of stopping her creation if there's time. And then we flip back with the Thing versus Minion. Minion just lifts him off the ground to the Thing's surprise. This is a great panel here. And I love the decision by Sharp to go outside of the bounds of the panel border itself as well. It works. And what does he do? He throws him off the bridge, hits a tugboat beneath the bridge, and then Minion watches them sail away. Interloper temporarily neutralized, resuming hunt for target Reed Richards. So back at Four Freedoms Plaza, this is a great image of Dr. Necker. And remember, it was raining outside, and look at the way that Sharp renders her hair now. It's bedraggled, wet and bedraggled. And that's a nice little continuity detail. Reed hands her a towel, and she's talking about how Death's Head was not assimilated in the same way, and Reed explains it to her. Death's Head was a mechanoid, not an organic being. His self, his persona is intact. His instinct. His programmed motivation is to hunt. My guess is that when your construct absorbed Death's Head, he didn't just get a set of abilities, he got the whole self. So Necker realizes, of course, Death's Head just downloaded himself into Minion's body. I never realized the difference it would make if it was a robot. Great anchor image here as well, with Necker with the towel on her shoulders and Reed. And I love the coloring here all throughout the issue, but this is really great with the color off the computer screen, reflecting on and highlighting aspects of Reed's face. Great profile shot of Reed by Liam Sharp. And as I've said before, like a beefier, bulkier version of Reed Richards, and it looks good. Reed is here working on how to get Death's Head's consciousness to the fore, because, as he says, I have the machinery here to make Death's Head consciousness the dominant force in Minion's mind. Death's Head knew me. He has no reason to kill me, so he'll stop hunting me. And that's a reference to Marvel UK Comics Death's Head Volume 1, Issue 9 by Simon Furman and Jeff Sr. And also 1990s Fantastic Four, number 338 by Walter Simonson. Walt Simonson was a fan of Death's Head, the original Death's Head, and drew the cover for. He drew the cover for the Death's Head trade paperback collection. Interesting, that little connection there. So anyway, Reed is making reference to an established continuity between Death's Head and him. And Necker here worried about the investment AIM have made in Minion, but Reed here a little ticked off Necker. He says, I'll do whatever I have to. Now please excuse me, I have a tachyon generator to hook up. So then we're outside Four Freedoms Plaza, and who's there except for Johnny Storm? And he realizes that the building's locked up. There's a maximum security shutdown, but he's got a remote that might still open the door, and who's behind him in silhouette except for Minion? This is a great little humorous bit as well. Identify one Johnny Storm, aka the Human Torch, superhero capabilities as follows. And Johnny flames on, and Minion punches him in the face. Flame off. That's pretty cool. In possession of remote override entry of Four Freedoms Plaza imminent, so he's on his way in. They're working away on Reed's new gizmo. And Dr. Necker here, as I said, there's a bit of chemistry between them. She says to him, it was a privilege to meet you in the flesh. This is just in case your plan doesn't work. So she gives him a smack on the cheek. That'll come in a little later. And Reed says, doesn't work, we have to make it work. Stand back. So Minion arrives into Reed's lab, and Necker says, "You were." She says to him, "That's why I wanted them." Oh no, I have to go back here. We have to make sure it works. And you can do it, Reed. She says, "I know about your abilities from the archives. That's why I wanted them for my cyborg." But what about me? He asks, and she says, "You were in the past. I kind of figured you as dead anyhow. You're a rare one, Necker." He says, "Here comes your boy now." So here's Minion right in through the side of the lab. And the door, it's a great shot by Sharp. And so Reed's machine is all hooked up and blasts Minion here. Again, I would flip the angle on that. I like seeing the choice there to have Mr. Fantastic and Dr. Necker in silhouette. That works really well. And here we go. So Minion is down, and Reed asks, that's a really great pose on him there, really powerful pose. And again, you see that Liam Sharp kind of buffing up of Richards, but it suits him. And So he asks Minion, do you remember me? He's hoping it's Death's Head's consciousness that's coming to the fore. Get this little humorous bit here. Remember, yes, Richard's department store open 10 till 8 for that perfect Christmas gift. And Necker here is worried. That doesn't sound like Death's Head to me. And this is a great shot as Minion gets up off the ground. And the way that it's hatched here with the colouring filling in what would be in black in silhouette, that to me is Liam Sharp copying a little trick of Todd McFarlane's. He must have liked it and decided to use it here in this panel. He uses it a few other times as well. I think it works well with this particular colouring. So Reed is fairly confident that Death's Head's consciousness will come to the fore, and indeed it does. So Reed says here to Necker, you say, I've ruined your project when you programmed the cyborg to kill me? And Minion here, striding to the right. Nobody needs to die, yes. So that's an indication Death's Head's consciousness is to the fore. That's his little idiom. Computer mainframe contains all data known to Reed Richards. I shall assimilate that. So Necker gets it. It has worked. And also that Death's Head's consciousness hasn't overridden Minion's compulsion to assimilate your knowledge, but he's doing it without killing you. So that seems like the perfect solution. And Death's Head now says, fair exchanged, yes. You gave me my consciousness, I save yours. Farewell, Richards. So he teleports, time ports out of there. And Necker here is distraught that he's gone before she could stop him, and she's got to go after him. So Reed says to her, be careful, his mind's still unstable. And she responds as she time jumps out of there, I must catch him or everything is lost, because AIM is facing a threat, a massive threat in 2020. And she bids him farewell. At least you're safe. Remember me fondly, Reed. It's been wild. So Johnny Storm, conscious again, arrives too late. Or late, rather. It's not too late. It's late. And Reed here, thinking thoughtfully or saying, remember me fondly, she says, with that big lipstick mark on the side of his cheek. And Johnny there asking where the bad guy's gone. Thing arrives. Sue arrives in her Fantastic Four uniform. And she's relieved to see that Reed is okay. She asks what happened. And he replies, I'm not sure. I think I may have set something terrible in motion. Great panel with all Fantastic Four there by Liam Sharp. Looking really good. I hope I did the right thing, says Reed. I hope so too, Buster, says Sue. And she's looking at that lipstick on the side of his cheek. The lad's there. Uh-oh, hoo boy. As they head away to escape the perhaps fight coming up. Interlude 2, a downtown lockup, New York 2020. So Spratt there, he's brought Death's Head's body to someone, and he's brought it to Baron Strucker V. So Strucker has his own ideas what to do with Death's Head's body, punches Spratt out, he's unconscious. Perfect, he says. With this fool's help and Death's Head body, AIM won't stand a chance. At last the Struckers will be revenged. An interesting design on him. Sharp has designed Baron von Strucker like a neo-Nazi, like an 80s, 90s neo-Nazi here. Really cool anchor image to end the issue and set up issue number 3. Next, Death's Head Outlaw. And in the back of the comic, we have some advertisements for other Marvel UK titles, like Warheads, mixing it up here with X-Force. Motormouth, here drawn by, this is very early work by Gary Frank. Nice little inset of Nick Fury as well. Kill Power here, this one by Liam Sharp, penciled and inked by Liam Sharp. And a Liam Sharp X-Men as well here. X-Men Blue Team, looking very good. Cyclops there about to have a sneeze, it looks like. And finally, a couple of preview images in black and white of the covers for the next issue, because each issue had a front cover and a back cover. Speaking of which, let's take a look at this issue's back cover. There it is. Minion versus the Fantastic Four. We've got the Thing and Minion going up against Reed in his dinner jacket. So, pretty cool, but I think the right choice was made for this to be the front cover to issue number 2. I do hope you enjoyed this review and commentary of Death's Head 2 number 2. If you did, please like the video on YouTube. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more content like this.